Hello and welcome to this edition of Velocity Kinetics. So today is the 9th of October. I was told we were sticking this on the other Baleno video, but I thought we'd do it as a separate one because there's a couple of other points I want to cover in it that that I wouldn't have normally gotten a chance to cover. So the reason we're making another video is today my car went and had its air conditioning compressor replaced and recharged. The condenser had to be replaced because it was made out of the wrong material, and it was falling to pieces, so they repaired it under warranty. Now, before you say Stoneacre should have known about it, apparently they may not have known about it. The reason being that this is a known fault on the Baleno, and it only seems to rear its head after 2 years. So why didn't I have the problem with the old one? Well, it was gone after 18 months, as in I'd had the car and sold it after 18 months. So kind of self-explanatory as to why I never saw the problem before. The dealership, John Banks, I took my car in, got there for 8 o'clock. The guy on the service desk is very helpful. He actually lives in the same village I live in. If I wasn't at work, I probably would have used a pick up and drop off for it. Dealership was very quiet, aside from a false alarm on the fire alarm. They were very quick at taking the car keys. They gave me a Swift for the day. I've shown the pictures on the Facebook page of what I was given. I was given a hybrid Swift. Now, I believe Suzuki have moved to a completely hybrid way of doing things. It's my first time driving a hybrid, and indeed this current generation of Swift. My sister has one, but it's a booster jet. It's not a hybrid. The Swift I had, it was okay. It was at least an SZT. So I had the reversing camera on it. The reversing camera is really low down on that generation of Swift, which in some ways is better than the Balenos for reversing, but at the same time, I couldn't quite get used to it, but I wasn't using the car that much. I think I only driven it 5 miles, 6 miles in total. It has highlighted to me some of the difficulties of driving a hybrid. And we're going to do a separate video about the difficulties of driving a hybrid, because even in my short time in one, I can already tell there are a couple of problems. And I don't mean as in it's a problem with the hybrid itself. It's a problem with, well, I won't spoil it because otherwise I won't have another video, but, you know, it's a problem. So the Swift was okay. The seat, in some ways, is actually a little bit better than the Balenos at the top of my back, but it also pinches my back a little bit more than the Balenos. The steering was a tiny bit more vague. The steering wheel, I prefer the feel of mine and the way mine's made, because the Swift's now one of these funny multi-shape part ones. Each their own, really. I think it's trying to go for like a Lamborghini-esque look to it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I could probably get used to it. But for initial fit and feel, it didn't feel very nice. I mean, to put it into context, when I test drove an S-Cross from Stoneacre, the steering wheel felt much nicer and the gearbox felt much nicer. The gear stick in the Swift, for where I have my seat, oh my god, it's such a long throw. As in, I practically have my left arm all the way extended. It's not a very pleasant feeling. The steering felt very light and not as direct as the Swift I'd had before, but the Swift I had was the last generation, which was I quite liked that generation. It was really fun to drive. But also at the same time, I guess with Suzuki now moving towards hybrid, some of the fun has had to go out to make way for hybrid, to make way for better fuel economy. So I was at work all day, and then I got the car, absolutely legged it back through Bury St Edmunds town centre to get back to the car park I'd parked in to get back. The car's had a wash and a hoover out, which was really nice. Bearing in mind, last time I was there, they said they couldn't because of COVID. Not sure why. They've done it this time when they haven't before, but because COVID's still around. But anyway, either way, but it has opened my eyes a little bit to some things about the way hybrids work. Also made me aware that I was offered a new car by Stoneacre a little while ago, and I was offered a Swift at about £2 less a month than my Baleno. And you know what? I don't think, having driven it now, I don't think I'd have taken it. The hybrid system is very hard to get used to in the short time I drove it. My dad has always had a philosophy about whenever you buy a new car, and I know a lot of children would always want to say their parents' advice and logic is wrong. I know my dad sometimes suffers from slightly higher and more questionable logic episodes than a lot of people. But his logic has always been, whenever you buy a car or get a car, even if it's a courtesy car, you need to be able to be used to it within a few hundred meters. So you need appreciate things like clutches. You got to get used to, because sometimes the bike point's funny, and if you're on a hill and questionable conditions, that's never going to be right. But you've got to feel generally okay in the car very, very fast, because obviously it's a killing machine. And I just didn't feel it. Not as in it's a bad car. I just didn't feel it. But we'll see what happens there. But John Banks have done a wonderful job. They were very supportive. No charge for the courtesy car, because car was in for recall work. So when it comes time to change my car or buy another car for when Sarah passes a test eventually, because Suzuki only do an SUV above what was the Baleno, unless they bring out a new hatchback that draws my attention, sort of Ford Focus sized hatchback, this is probably my last Suzuki, unless Sarah wants a Swift. It's not my last Japanese car, I don't think, because the John Banks Suzuki dealership has a John Banks Honda right next to it. So I will probably be going with a Civic next time. As much as I'd like a Subaru and things like that, there's no Subaru dealer nearby. I've got to go trek to get one. I'll certainly give that dealership a shout the next time I need stuff doing. It's just a good little local dealer, and in some ways it makes me wonder whether Stoneacre was starting to take the mickey with how I was going about things. Then again, maybe I was expecting too much. Well, this is the end of the Baleno battle, I think, for now, unless a new problem develops, which sometimes seems to be on the right front wheel at slow speed. It sometimes seems to just feel like it's going all the time. Who knows? The other current problem is it steams up like no fucker's business at the moment, and I don't know why. I think some of the problem is everyone's temperatures are raised, not from COVID, but from having to wear face masks. Like, I have to wear face masks all day. So naturally, rebreathing recirculated air and things, you're just hotter from having something on your face all day. So it might just simply be higher temperatures, and given how questionable the weather's been for a lot of this year, maybe it's just that. But anyway, that's the Baleno battle, and I will talk to you about hybrid problems shortly. Look after yourselves and drive safe, please.